welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about data analytics strategies and technologies at the edge. And we're actually talking about challenges right now, which there's always plenty of those. Sanjay, can you give us your top challenge that you're dealing with right now as you embark on this journey?
I'd say, Luke, it's data sharing. And let me give a little example of what it means from our SBA context. The last year and a half, obviously, we were, as we were running the nation's largest economic recovery initiatives, we were trying to do data sharing with the Treasury for things like do not pay, with IRS for tax transcripts, with census for census tract data. And we ran into numerous challenges in terms of being able to access the data, policy requirements, and or latency requirements and scalability. So that's we've been able to overcome some of them, but the volume at which we were looking at and the speed at which we were looking at, we couldn't really access that. The other sort of a related item I would quickly want to talk about is ownership. This is a common discussion I have with program owners from program offices that we talk about. And the first answer I get back is, well, this is my data. And my first correction on that is, well, I'm sorry, this is not your program office data. This is SBA data. So let's at least make sure we are sharing it at the SBA level and not keeping the data silos at a program office level. So those two tend to be, in my opinion, at least from my perspective, the largest challenges.
And very important ones. It sounds like you're starting to get a handle on how to combat that and overcome them. Dr. Greer, top challenge that you're experiencing there at Intel.
I love all of these challenges. They are really, really relevant. We are really trying to take a look at a very large challenge, which has got an umbrella capability associated with it. And it falls basically under this umbrella called security. We're trying to find ways to make data more secure so that people can trust it, especially as we move from this large data set concept that we've been talking about to a much smaller, hyper-relevant capability that is going to drive more accuracy in data algorithms, securing the algorithms themselves. And you heard a little bit about that focus in the Analytics Anywhere capability. Physical security at the edge is important because we are not sitting behind a really secure environment at a data center. So being able to physically secure that space and being able to drive mechanisms that are tamper-proof, cybersecurity, and being able to understand the new threats and vulnerabilities that compromise algorithmic decision-making. And then lastly, the one that's new is probably this one around machine versus machine, because it seems clear that the bad guys are determined to use the kinds of analytic capability that we've created against us. And so in order to be in a better position to respond in an automated fashion in some cases, be able to isolate quickly compromised systems, being able to notify humans in the loop that need to be able to take immediate action on vulnerability capabilities and threats. These are all under this basic umbrella of cyber. And while it may seem like an anti-pattern for Intel, because our AI strategy starts with software, it is an important area for us to be able to investigate and be able to contribute to, because we can't trust and use systems that aren't secure.
Very good point that you're raising there. A couple of points there, particularly the machine to machine, and of course, integrity of the data, so important. Ramesh, how about at DIA? Top challenge that you're facing there as you get involved in bringing this analytic capability to the edge?
I would say the biggest challenge is talent, right? Talent is the most important challenge, I think, especially for all of DoD, not just DIA. I mean, I'm on the DoD Executive Steering Group with General Groen and Undersecretary of Defense for R&E. So we look at overall what the country needs, and talent is number one, I would say, followed by speed and scale, right? As we move from counterterrorism to strategic competition, we need to make sure that we can move fast and we can scale fast and we have the platforms in place to make sure we are building on top of those newer digital platforms where data can be shared and consumed in any direction based on the policies that is applicable to that specific mission need, depending on which partner we are working with. So I would say speed and scale is very important, and technologies like cloud, AI, and quantum maybe in future will enable some of those things, but to do all those, I mean, technology is important, but to do all those, the most important ingredient is talent. So once we have the right people in the right place, other things will happen.
Bottom line, at the end of the day, the raw material is the talent, and several of you have brought this up. Cameron, top challenge that you see facing us from the Dell perspective?
Yeah, Luke, I'm probably going a little bit of an adjacency here with you, but I think it's culture. You know, when you add all of these different specific ingredients up, security, talent, speed, agility, you know, Luke, the pandemic taught us one thing, that when you challenge us as a country, we rise. It's really that simple, right? We're very proud of that fact, and we learn rapidly how to move with agility, work with a risk management security strategy, knowing that no environment's perfect, but we know how to manage risk in the environment, and then access to the talent and the people we need to actually go execute on mission. You know, Luke, you and I've talked about this philosophically in the past. One great example, commercial companies, a lot of them now are not requiring college degrees in the technical professions. Why? Because we're seeing kids, you know, I look at my daughter through elementary school and junior high, you know, kids who code, right? We're seeing that talent is naturally being bred without these formal educational tracks. Now that's good and bad, right? There is always a yin and yang to it, but unlocking that creativity and that next generation of talent pool and fostering that, I respect the framework that's in place for the government today, but we learned in moving fast during the pandemic that there are a few things we just need to challenge current thinking in a very positive and healthy way. And that is all about culture. And it's about culture of agility, safety, and moving fast with adoption.
And right, unlocking that talent early and unlocking all the talent, right? From a diversity standpoint, I think it's another thing we're really starting to recognize and see that blooming in lots of different ways, which is very exciting. We're going to wrap it up here with this last question that we always like to end with, and that is to paint a picture of the future, right? What's it going to look like out there in 2 to 3 years? Dr. Greer, we're going to start with you at Intel. Not so much what's in the Petri dish, but you know, what can we expect in this analytic edge analytics space over the next 2 to 3 years?
We will see a focus on hyper-relevant data. We will see an immense focus on diverse thought in the development of AI solutions, because if it's not diverse, it's not ethical. And we will see a strong desire to get to next generation AI. We've heard this discussion around quantum, but we are absolutely bullish on neuromorphic computing, and we've invested quite a bit of our resources in the understanding of how to use brain-inspired capabilities to drive silicon architectures that allow us to do hyper fast, hyper relevant, very low power, and very small data set analytic capabilities at the edge. So you'll see a strong focus on neuromorphic computing as things move forward in the next 2 or 3 years.
Wow, it sounds like the future is right around the corner. Quite frankly, the future is here. Very interesting, and we look forward to hearing more about that as that all progresses. Kaladar, how about at Equinix? Tell us what it looks like over the next 2 or 3 years. What do you all have in the hopper there?
Right. I think the main thing we're going to be seeing is what I call as a democratization of AI. Increasingly, I think we have to take AI to the masses rather than, you know, it won't scale otherwise. We won't be able to train enough people to understand the AI algorithms and how they operate. So I think this happens at various levels. So one is definitely at the data science or the subject matter expert. We have to make it easy for them to basically consume AI. The second area is the IT support folks. I think increasingly these AI, the training part of AI, training and inference, the training part of AI, the machines are like increasingly 30 kilowatt per rack or higher. Traditional data centers are built 10 to 15 kilowatts per rack. So we cannot expect the IT folks in various organizations to be able to support this next generation AI hardware. So increasingly, you will see these organizations outsourcing that to colos or other data center companies. Otherwise, it's very hard for the IT group to actually manage this kind of AI infrastructure. So I think democratization, The last one is basically the packaging of open source and pre-existing models and an AI developer for hire, like in Kaggle in Google. So those are all the trends which are going to increasingly push people to reuse existing data, existing software, and even developers online. So those are three trends towards democratization of AI that I'm seeing, going to see in next 2 to 3 years.
It's almost like a crowdsourced capability of AI there. Interesting concept. Cameron, how about at Dell? What's it look like, right around the corner, just over the horizon there?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a convergence, Luke, of several key trends. We talk about gamification a lot. What that really means is the interaction or immersion with data becomes a little bit more relevant for the user to be able to digest and understand in an augmented reality type of sense. And I think when we think of data at the edge and data analytics, you're going to see geolocated relevance to you and a personalized sense or personalization of that AI, Luke. What I mean by that is we all carry smartphones that we can tell where you're at in a geolocated world. Being able to bring that phone up, look through your camera lens, and look at the different aspects of data and analytics about where you're at that are relevant based on your geolocation. So imagine your phone knows you're English speaking, but you happen to, let's say, be visiting Germany. And you're, I don't know, Luke, maybe we find ourselves at Oktoberfest maybe, and we need to be able to order a beer with, a lovely lady that's going to serve that to us. Being able to bring your phone up, know how to translate based on where you're at, and know what's relevant from a situational awareness. It's this convergence of artificial intelligence, analytics at the edge, the data with geolocation services, because it's all about in that mission, it's got to be relevant at mission speed, right? And so you have to know where you're at, what you're doing, and what type of information you need to be effective.
Right, that use case about, pulling data from Kandahar and having it almost instantly available, just game changer type of capability there. Super
Exactly.
important. Ramesh, how about at Defense Intelligence Agency? What's that going to look like over the next 2 to 3 years? If I'm an analyst out there, an end user of any sense out there, what type of capability can I expect to have over the next 2 to 3 years?
I think we are in line with most of the industry in general. I mean, we have some specific missions, but there is digitization happening, evolution of new digital platforms. The business models are changing, operating models are changing. And from my perspective, personally, as a CTO, I'm pushing hard for edge AI. So we are relevant for the mission, right? Ability to operate in contested environments, things like that. So we are definitely extending our workloads to the edge, ability to integrate with the upcoming JADC2 platforms, whether it's Overmatch or ABMS, whatever it is. So our foundational military intelligence data is available to our warfighters when required, anytime, anywhere in the world. And we have high assurance networks to support those missions. So it's data for sure. It is technologies like edge AI, and it is embracing the platforms like cloud to build these future capabilities and making sure it's available to everyone, everywhere when required, based on the policies and guidelines set forth by the government.
The integrity of that environment and the reliability of the environment really important. And you highlighted those various activities that are in place to ensure that capability is available. Sanjay, how about over at SBA? Once again, you all have been on a tear there over the last couple of years. There's a heightened expectation, right, as we come into this, emerge into this new booming economy. What's that going to look like? What can a small business owner expect over the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, certainly great idea on that dimension there, Luke. So really 3 or 4 areas from my perspective that I envision. First and foremost, I envision an increased amount of data sharing and data collaboration amongst federal agencies. We are the Small Business Administration, but we rely on many other agencies to deliver our services. And we can be much more efficient and effective in our delivery of those services, and more targeted, or being able to serve our underserved and traditionally underserved communities in a much better fashion by leveraging that data. The ability to connect disparate data sets and draw insights and be able to create correlations, that is, I think, an amazing feature that is lying dormant in my view. It's not a technology issue, it's just a policy issue that will be addressed. Number two, I anticipate that data as an asset will become increasingly valuable. So what does that mean? It means we'll be investing more in data, data management, data products, and everything associated with data. Third, I think we will be looking at what I call is applying analytics and visualizations in an inline manner, as opposed to what I call is post-processing, meaning today we collect the data and then we analyze it and then we figure out what it meant. But I think we have the technological capability today to do inline processing. So let's say the data streaming is happening for cybersecurity as an example. We do not have to wait to collect the data and then be able to come back and analyze it in the next day or next week or something. We will have the ability to do inline processing. And finally, I think the cybersecurity world, from our perspective, is going to dramatically change because we'll be increasingly leveraging data in our ability to secure the environments and secure our information and broadly, protect the larger community at large. So that's sort of what I envision.
A lot to think about there, a lot to look forward to there. And we really appreciate that and are excited about that. Eileen, if I'm a freshly minted cadet coming out of the academy, I guess one thing, you're going to try to turn me into a data scientist, it sounds like. But beyond that, what can they expect to see? What can they expect to feel? What's that environment look like as they look around and head out into the world?
Well, I like to say that data is going to be part of their core DNA. It's how they do their mission every day. So it's not just about accelerating technology to have the best tools and capabilities, but it's accelerating the culture change. So today I work with my colleagues across the military services. So I work with Tom Cicela at the Department of Navy. I work with David Markowitz at the Department of the Army, and of course, David Spirk, who is the DoD CDO. Together, we work to really make sure we're making data visible, accessible, and trustworthy. And so I think that we're going to see a culture of collaboration, but really driving that culture change, where I see a day where we don't talk about data individually because it's really what we do every single day. And so it's just part of the mission.
It's just sort of embedded into the fabric. Well, I'll tell you, I really do appreciate everyone's time today. And I want to thank the guest for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us for this program. And for everything that you all do to fight the good fight every single day. I'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every single month. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.